Analects on King Sigebert. By various authors.
Saint Sigebert's wife was Imnechildis, and their son was Dagobert, the king of the Austrasians. Their granddaughter was Saint Irmina, and their great-grandson was Saint Gregory of Utrecht, among others descended from Saint Sigebert. Saint Sigebert's wife was Imnechildis, who was also known by names like Imnechildis, Umechildis, and Chinechildis. From her, Dagobert and perhaps several other children were born. After Saint Sigebert's death, Dagobert, who was just 8 or 10 years old at the time, became the rightful heir to the throne. However, due to the plotting of the nobles, especially Grimoald, the mayor of the palace, Dagobert was expelled. He was tonsured as a cleric on the advice of Dido, the bishop of Poitiers, and sent to Scotland, or rather Ireland. Instead, Grimoald's son Childebert was made king of the Austrasians, and a false rumor spread that he had been adopted as the heir by Saint Sigebert, and that Dagobert had died, as verified elsewhere from ancient sources. Imnechildis, Saint Sigebert's wife, seems to have fled to Paris after her son was taken to Ireland, seeking help against the usurper of the kingdom. After the usurper was expelled, she ruled the Austrasians alongside the young Childeric. In the second year of his reign, both King Childeric and Queen Imnechildis granted the Berezia monastery in the Laon region to Saint Amand. It is also said that, with the counsel of Queen Imnechildis, Childeric founded a monastery in Upper Alsace in the valley of St. Gregory. At that time, St. Wilfrid was in England, consecrated as a bishop in 664 and appointed over all Northumbria around 669. He received Dagobert, who came to him from Ireland, offered hospitality, and sent him back to his homeland with horses and companions. Imnechildis, his mother, secured part of the kingdom for him in more remote areas and fostered peace and harmony between the two kings. Once Dagobert was established as king, he warmly welcomed St. Wilfrid when he visited and repeatedly asked him to honor his province by accepting the bishopric of Strasbourg, as deduced elsewhere from the Acts of St. Wilfrid. Dagobert had a wife named Mechthild, Duchess of Saxony, as noted by Brush in the Bishops of Strasbourg and St. Arbogast. It's documented in a manuscript chronicle by Matthias Moranus, in the topography of the Archbishop of Mainz, discussing Heiligenstadt, the main city of Eichsfeld, that after being expelled from his kingdom, Dagobert lived with his wife among the Thuringians. This place is said to owe its origins to Dagobert. These accounts, which also appear in the editions to Lambert of Schaffenburg by Pastorius, on page 264, concerning the monastery of Erfurt, seem to refer to the same Dagobert and confirm the time of Sigebert or Richbert, Bishop of Mainz. Instead of the year 707, it should be 677, or close to it. Dagobert was known as the king of the Germans, Franks, and the Rhine Franks. Besides the territories beyond the Rhine, he also held Alsace, including the city of Strasbourg. In Alsace, he granted his palace at Kirchheim and other places to the monastery of Hasselac after St. Florentius, later Bishop of Strasbourg, restored sight and speech to his daughter. Dagobert also made various gifts to the Church of Strasbourg and the monasteries of Schutern and Zoborg when his son was brought back to life by St. Arbogast, Bishop of Strasbourg. His son seems to have been born in the royal fortress of Semberg or Isenberg and was baptized and named Sigebert after his grandfather. In some records, Saint Sigebert is mistakenly reported by Brush and Guillemin in the Bishops of Strasbourg, in St. Arbogast, and by Coxius in the previous Dagobert, chapter 15, to have been resurrected. However, aside from the resurrection, he is said to have been killed by a wild boar during a hunt on the island of Noviotensis in the Rhine. According to Johann Isaac Pontanus in Book 2 of the History of Gelderland, and poisoned by Grimoald. According to Moraeus in the Belgian Fast Book, February 21, in the eulogy of Blessed Duke Pepin. The suspicion of poisoning is also raised by the Saint-Marthe family in Volume 1 of the Genealogical History of the Kings of the Franks, Book 5, Chapter 8. All these distinctions of times and persons collapse. We confirm the rest from the Acts of the Saints Arbogast and Florentius, Bishops of Strasbourg, elsewhere. Imnechildis, the wife of Saint Sigebert and mother of Dagobert, stayed with King Childeric even after he married Bilichild. The donations made by Saint Sigebert to the monks of Stavelot and Malmedy are confirmed by these three. The Diploma, which will be given below, begins as follows. Childeric, king of the Franks, Imnechildis, and Bilichild, queens by the grace of God, to the illustrious men Duke Gundogan and Odo the domestic. And this is its closing statement. So that this decree of ours, written on parchment, remains firm and unbreakable. We have decided to affirm it with our hand below sign of the glorious Lord Childeric, king sign of Queen Imnechildis sign of Bilichild, queen by the grace of God sign of Duke Gundogan, given on the 6th day of September, in the 8th year of the reign of Lord Childeric, king happily in Utrecht. That year is 672. Then in the year 686, after the death of Clotaire III, king of Neustria and Burgundy, Childeric succeeded and also retained the kingdom of the Austrasians, in which Imnechildis, the queen, is suggested to have still lived with some power in the life of Saint Projectus, bishop of the Arverni, on January 25, from a manuscript published in Utrecht, where, in number 11, it is written, "When the man of God, Projectus, was called to court by Count Hector, he realized he was constrained on all sides, compelled by necessity. He replied that he had entrusted the church's matters to Queen Imnechildis' authority, and when they learned of this assertion, the unfinished work remained. Saint Projectus, therefore, unfolds the labor of his work and how he was eventually brought forth through guarantors the king and queen Belichild, as the name is expressed in another life, struck with fear, sought forgiveness from the aforementioned bishop in front of everyone." These events occurred in the year 679. During the solemn vigils of Easter, Childeric did not survive long, as he was killed by wicked conspirators along with the pregnant queen, and he was buried in the Basilica of St. Peter in Rouen. After Childeric was killed, Theodoric was invited back by the people of Neustria and Burgundy to rule. Meanwhile, in Austrasia, a man named Clovis, believed to be the son of Clothar III, became king. However, after being rejected, the rightful heir, Dagobert, the son of Saint Sigebert, was called upon by the nobles. It appears he received his father's kingdom, which he had partially held for some time, more as a gift than through force or warfare. This ignited a new war between the Austrasians and Neustrians. We learn about this conflict from the life of Saint Sigebert, the abbess, written by a contemporary author. Among the notable monasteries built by Saint Sigebert, we will soon highlight the significance of Stavelot and Malmedy. Dagobert, already established as king among the Austrasians, confirmed his father's donation. This document begins, "Dagobert, illustrious king of the Franks. We believe it strengthens the kingdom in God's name if we affirm the deeds of our lord and father Sigebert, once king, in God's name for our purposes. Therefore, the venerable Godwin, abbot of the monastery of Stavelot and Malmedy, informed the mercy of our kingdom, since the Lord, and our father Sigebert the king, had granted it by his command. We provide the full document elsewhere and confirm it with other imperial records and the constitution of Pope St. Leo IX. St. Boniface, Archbishop of Cologne, mentioned this matter in a letter to Pope Stephen, and among his letters to Serrarius, number 97, published, we provide it elsewhere and prove that it concerns Dagobert, the son of Saint Sigebert. Besides the son raised from death by the prayers of Saint Arbogast, Dagobert had several daughters. The most notable among them is Saint Irmina, a virgin and the first abbess of the monastery of Horia near Trier, also recorded in Roman Martyrology on December 24. She was buried in the monastery of Wissembourg, generously endowed by her father Dagobert, who, as we've shown elsewhere, founded or supported many monasteries. Another daughter of Dagobert, and niece of Saint Sigebert, was Adela. Inspired by her sister Irmina's example after her husband's death, Adela also embraced a monastic lifestyle and led a very holy life. She became the abbess of the monastery built at Palatiolum on the Moselle River's bank and bequeathed her possessions to its church. Her will was signed on April 1 in the 12th year of King Theodoric, specifically the last one, in the year 731. Her sister Regentrudis is mentioned in that will. Without her, some claim Rathild, or Rothilda, was the third daughter of Dagobert and believe she married Ludric Buchanus, founder of the castle in Lille, Gallo-Flanders. However, we have not yet found this proven by ancient records. What is certain is that Alberic, Adela's son, fathered many children, including Saint Gregory, who was a close companion of Saint Boniface until his death and later served as a priest for the Bishop of Utrecht. Saint Luger, his disciple, wrote about his life. Whether Saint Alberic, who later became Bishop of Utrecht, descended from one of Saint Gregory's brothers and was named after his grandfather, is something we explore elsewhere. Saint Gregory is celebrated on August 25 and Saint Alberic on November 14. Whether the Saint Dagobert, venerated as a martyr among the people of Saithenacum in Lorraine, was a king of the Franks and the son of Saint Sigebert, we do not yet dare to determine with certainty.
2.
The author of the Acts of Saint Sigebert mentions that 12 monasteries were built, which Galenius attributes solely to Ardennes. In total, 20 monasteries were constructed, according to Malanus in the Octarium Ujardi, Galcinus, and Sasse, whose words we have referenced earlier. Brouwer, in his unpublished work Metropolis, writes about them as follows. In the year 651, Sigebert, king of the Austrasians, was flourishing in his royal court at Metz. He He was renowned for his remarkable innocence and outstanding generosity toward various religious orders. He established and expanded monasteries of significant size, enriching them with perpetual revenues. Among these were Malmedy and Stavelot on the borders of Ardennes, and the monastery of St. Martin in the suburb of Metz. This is what Brouwer reports, but neither he nor others mention the remaining monasteries. We will discuss the one founded and later destroyed in Metz below. In the life of Saint Amandus, celebrated on February 6, we will note that while the holy King Sigebert ruled the Austrasians, many monasteries were built in the Belgian and German provinces, which we will not list here. Before Stavelot and Malmedy, another monastery was erected at Chiny in the Duchy of Luxembourg by the river Sesomiram or Sesomiram, commonly called Sesmoy or Samois, between the towns of Chiny and Bouillon. In later centuries, this became a priory in the district of Cugnan. We will discuss it in more detail on February 3, in the life of Saint Hodelin. Below, in column 319, Diploma I, we provide the diploma of Saint Sigebert, shared with us by the very kind John Anthony Gornesius, a priest of the Oratory congregation. This confirms that Saint Remaclus was appointed abbot, even though he was not yet the bishop of Maastricht. The bishop of Metz, Godo, also known as Dodo or Godio, was still alive, and the saintly Clodulf, son of Saint Arnulf, succeeded him. To this bishop, Remaclus sent Saint Trudeau in the first year of his episcopate. This effectively refutes Boucher, who, in Part 1 of the Origins of the Royal Family of the Franks, Chapter 6, counts the episcopate of Godo from 659 to 667, and believes Saint Clodulf succeeded him and lived until the year 707. In the document, aside from Sasomiram, the river Alsnia is mentioned. It rises above Luxembourg, flows past the city, joins the Atardo, empties into the Sura, and then flows into the Moselle. The forest Uriacus extends to the village of Yours below Bouillon. It should be read as Viracus, referring to the nearby river Vire. Understanding these points will make the document clearer. Nocorus, Bishop of Liège, in the life of Saint Remaclus, Bishop of Maastricht, on September 3, mentions another life written by an older and nearly contemporary author. He writes in the prologue to Abbot Wernfrid, "You offered a booklet about the life of both our and your special patron, Lord Remaclus, lamenting that due to the negligence of your predecessors, it was shorter than the greatness of his deeds required. At the same time, you seemed, if I may not say begged, but rather urged, that it should be not only copied but also polished somewhat more elegantly. In this earlier booklet, or Life of Saint Remaclus, it is written about the monasteries built at Stavelot and Malmedy. It happened, by God's favor, that the pious rulers of the Frankish kingdom, King Sigebert and Duke Grimoald, by God's will and the advice of their nobles, ordered that monasteries be built within the forest, located in the district called Ardennes, named Stavelot and Malmedy, where religious monks would dwell and serve Christ spiritually. They would pray to Almighty God for the well-being of the whole kingdom, and the safety of the king and his sons, or those exercising care over the kingdom. Then they began to build diligently, and, as is usual in such work, divine power followed, and they were completed swiftly with great success. When it was time to dedicate the newly adorned church buildings, the king called upon the blessed Bishop Remaclus, because one of the churches, Stavelot, was part of his diocese. The other, Malmedy, fell under the jurisdiction of the metropolis, with the consent of Cunibert, the metropolitan of Cologne. The bishop was summoned to dedicate them in accordance with his ministry. The very holy man promptly obeyed and diligently carried out the task assigned to him, which had been accomplished through his leadership. Being close to and beloved by the king and the chief officials of the palace due to his great holiness, no important decision was made without his advice. Because he was so cherished by them, after the solemn celebration of the Masses, the mayor of the palace, Grimoald, entrusted these places to him, to manage everything under his authority and uphold the rules of monastic life there. Not long afterward, he finally obtained permission from the king, allowing him to leave a successor in the episcopal seat, as he had long desired, so he could retreat to this solitary place and devote himself solely to God, away from people. Thus, with vigilant care, he maintained the teachings of monastic life without reproach and inspired many noble men to adopt that way of life, which he taught perfectly. What he taught with words, he first ensured to fulfill with actions. As a result, as religion grew, the income of the church increased, benefiting the servants of God working there. When the aforementioned devout rulers heard of this religious practice, they summoned the blessed man and granted him 12 leagues in length and width from the forest, where no one could challenge his or his successor's authority, allowing them to serve God peacefully. They also confirmed this by testament with imperial seals, ensuring its permanence, which the Most Holy Father gladly accepted and held with reverence. However, not long after, He aimed to shorten the time so that it could be done more easily for the followers. Without any obstacles, the leaders of the place could maintain what seems to have endured completely unchanged up to our time. The monasteries of Stavelot and Malmedy are located nearly 8 miles from Liège, in the direction of the east and Trier. Both began construction around the year 655, which was the 6th year of St. Remaclus's episcopate. The charters were granted towards the end of King Sigebert's life. Part of these charters is presented by Notker in the life of St. Remaclus. We provide these charters below.